How do you keep moving forward when your own body feels like it's working against you? For millions of people living with chronic pain, the physical symptoms are only part of the battle. The frustration of not having answers, feeling misunderstood, and wondering if life will ever be normal again can be just as difficult. In this episode, I'm joined by synergistic wellness coach Cat Webb. After being diagnosed with fibromyalgia and living with years of chronic pain, Kat has turned her own experiences into a mission to help others find hope, healing, and practical strategies to live a much better life. We dive into why mindset matters, how nutrition, movement, stress, and relationships all work together, and why feeling heard can be just as helpful as any other form of treatment. Whether you're living with chronic pain yourself or supporting somebody who is. This conversation is a reminder that healing isn't just dealing with symptoms. It's about rebuilding your life one step at a time. Let's get into it. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Health Movement Podcast. I'm Derek, your host, a teacher of over 20 years and a certified personal trainer. And with us, I have an awesome guest with us today, and I'll introduce her in just a second. But before I do, I want to reiterate that we are not doctors, so before you go changing any programming or anything like that, please consult with your physician. Now that that's out of the way, I have with me today a very special guest, Cat Webb, who is a synergistic wellness coach. Cat, thank you so much for taking the time and joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
I wanted to start with an initial question right off the bat. I noticed I reached out on LinkedIn and you were nice enough to get back to me, and we were able to have a conversation before the show. It mentions a lot in your bio and in a lot of the posts that you do, working with chronic pain. Can you dive a little deeper into that for us? Because I have some friends and people I know that deal with it as well. And just, can you talk about what you do and how you help people out? I know that's a very general, broad question too to start you off with, so I apologize.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So basically, I am myself a chronic pain sufferer. I've been suffering from fibromyalgia for several years. I also have scoliosis, so I've always kind of dealt with a certain level of back pain as well. So I am someone who definitely understands how that feels, which I think is kind of lacking in the health coach industry. A lot of times we have like people seem to think that we're perfect and we're super healthy all the time and we have everything together, but that's not always the case. I mean, everybody's human, right? But
Yes, definitely.
I definitely can relate to them on that level. And so that's kind of why I got into the synergistic wellness coaching, is because I feel like people need to know that there is someone out there who has access to this kind of knowledge and research and stuff, but who also understands what it's like to live with chronic pain, chronic fatigue, and how it feels to not be okay and not be healthy at the same time.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And before we go any further, what do you mean by synergistic wellness, in case people listening might be unfamiliar with that term?
Absolutely. So basically, it's a system of healing that uses the principle of synergy in the methodology. So synergy is the principle that the whole is it's greater than the sum of its parts. It's everything in your life, all the little different avenues that we tend to think of as existing in a vacuum. They're really all very interconnected. They all impact each other. For example, your nutrition can be great, but if you're in a very stressful environment, you're still going to feel sick. You're not going to be experiencing all the benefits of it because your body is stressed and you're dealing with all that. So just as an example, it's like everything is connected, basically.
So when you talk about all these different parts, and I know this is going to be different for everybody, but just in general, what are the parts that you focus on?
Well, I do focus on whatever the client needs. It's very client centric the way I do things. Like, I like to get to know someone before I start kind of giving a whole lot of information or a whole lot of advice. I like to ask a lot of questions. Generally speaking, what I try to focus on is obviously lifestyle, nutrition, very important, but also your mindset, we do breath work, different things like that to kind of help center the mind and get your spiritual self kind of on the same page with your body so that they are working together and so that you can experience the best of all of the benefits.
I feel like that piece is not talked about nearly enough. And I know when the show was first started, I started with a buddy of mine who was the athletic trainer for Holy Cross University in Worcester, Massachusetts. Little shout out there.
Mhm.
But a lot of the focus was on, nutrition and fitness in those sort of aspects. And we touched on mindset. But the more we got into it, we both kind of had that epiphany where like the mindset is definitely the most important piece of this that kind of controls everything else. Have you found that that's something you notice with people where they don't realize the importance of mindset and your view on, I guess, life in general?
Yes, it's a huge factor. And when you are dealing with clients who are suffering, who are dealing with chronic pain and, are dealing with these conditions, it's very easy to have to be depressed. I mean, of course you're going to be sad about it.
Yeah,
It
yes,
sucks,
understandably it
right?
does.
So nobody, I feel like it's unreasonable to expect for people who are dealing with these things that are so severe to have a super positive view of the world. But I think it's important for someone like us who has been through these things and has this knowledge to kind of meet them where they are and show them like, hey, I totally get it. This sucks. This is, it's terrible. But here are some few little things that we can do that are within your realm of what you are, capable of. It's not going to be anything crazy.
Yeah.
And it's going to help you work your way back up to a more positive mindset. And then once you kind of get to that point, it really does kind of just break the dam of, of progress, really.
Do you find that that's the first hurdle you have to kind of cross is the mindset piece?
I think
Or
so. I find that it's most beneficial to, again, kind of ask questions and connect with the client first, and just kind of see where they're at, how they're handling things, because everybody goes through this stuff differently.
yeah.
I mean, especially when you're dealing with fibromyalgia, which is a dynamic disease. So the symptoms are different for each person. So you have to kind of have that flexible mentality and, be able to meet the person where they are.
Yeah, I think they're all going to be specifically tailored to the individual, which I think is where you come in and your expertise and your background and the experience that you have, because there is no one size fits all solution to any of this sort of thing. Um,
Absolutely.
just like in any aspect of life, everybody has different experiences, backgrounds to
Mhm.
pull from. So I imagine there needs to be a huge level of trust developed. To have this really be beneficial for people. Is that a good assumption there?
Yes, definitely. And that's one reason I am open about my diagnoses and my issues, because I feel like that does kind of create that trust, because again, they can realize that this person does understand, what I'm going through,
Yes.
And when I worked at a health store here locally, and then I worked at a dispensary. And when I was doing those things, I really got to experience that a lot, where I was connecting with people, which, on a retail front, you meet a lot of people
Yeah.
every day.
Yes, I can see that.
But we definitely got to connect, and it was always so amazing to meet these different people who have such different experiences, but always managed to find some little piece of common ground where we could connect and have a similar goal and mindset.
Well, that's good. Um how do you have these conversations, these honest conversations? And do you connect them to any scientific research, or is this something where it's more based on personal experiences through you and through the person that you're working with? I don't know if that question makes sense the way I'm asking it.
Well, it's kind of a little of both. I have spent a lot of years researching the science behind the things that I teach. I'm always absolutely willing to go into the details and the biology of it. I'm a total nerd. I love that
I love
stuff.
that.
So I'm always open to that. But a lot of people really don't want to go that deep into it. I find they're like, yeah, that sounds good. Okay, let's
That's
give it a
true. Oh, I'm
shot.
sure you do get a few though that nerd out with it as well, and
Yes.
they'll dive
And it's
full.
fun. It's
Yeah,
fun.
I do appreciate that when somebody's got the passion for it, and it kind of borderlines on obsession. I feel like sometimes, which if you're going to learn something, you've got to be a little bit obsessed to dive deep enough into it. But that's always fun when you meet somebody who's of the same mindset,
Absolutely.
that same level of obsession. So this is the fibromyalgia is something you've been dealing with. So it's, I assume that's what got you into this. I don't want to assume, but it connects the dots pretty easily that way.
Yeah. Well, I kind of got started in my interest in health and nutrition when I was young. I was probably about 18. I started really getting interested in the nutrition aspect and fitness. I was in the gym 4 to 5 days a week. I mean, eating clean, everything was meal prepped, all that good stuff,
Nice.
that's ideal.
Yes.
And years went by, things happened that shouldn't have happened. And one factor with fibromyalgia is that it's often triggered by trauma.
Okay.
And sometimes experiences can, trigger that to flare up and you have those symptoms occur. So since the years have gone on, I've dealt with various different levels of pain, various different symptoms of the fibromyalgia. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of it made me feel like I was going crazy in the beginning.
Oh,
It really did because there's no outward like stimulus to be causing a lot of the things that I was feeling. Like, for example, I would feel like a horrible sting on my arm, like somebody just stuck a pin in it, just really bad. But there's
yeah.
nothing there. You can't see anything. So in my mind, I'm like, what is going on? Right. And the only thing that really helped me when I was feeling that way was to talk to other people who had those same experiences because that was my doctors thought I was crazy probably. I mean, they,
Yeah. No,
we,
I can see that. But having the people that have gone through it as well, I'm sure
yeah,
sharing stories is incredibly helpful. Um,
so,
yeah.
so much.
And I assume it manifests differently in people. Is that correct?
Yes, that's one they're learning more about it as time goes on. But the research that's being done is very recent, it's very new, and so the disease isn't terribly well understood yet. But it does affect everyone a little differently because as they understand it now, it's a central nervous system disorder. And since that system regulates basically everything else in your body, each person, depending on what day, what stimulus they're dealing with, the symptoms are going to be different. And that's why it's so hard to pin it down and so hard to get a diagnosis and so hard for these people to navigate not just the symptoms, not just feeling the way they feel, but also getting help, getting support,
Mm.
being heard and seen and taken seriously is very difficult when you have an invisible illness.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine that too, especially in the frustration level of not understanding what's going on. How long did it take until you knew this was the cause of it?
It was a few years.
Oh, wow.
I doubt myself a lot. But I found out that there were other members of my family that also had been diagnosed with it. So I kind of started putting some pieces together and like I said, talking to other people as well. So that kind of led me to pursue that and be like, hey, maybe this is what's actually going on and get a little bit more closure in that area and realize that I'm not completely crazy in that way.
Well, I imagine dealing with this for a couple of years, that's a long time to not really understand it. And we all have our doubts and everything. So I imagine that starts creeping in the longer it's been going on.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And that's why I definitely use that as like a motivator now that I'm in the position that I'm in to try to reach out to people who have felt those same things, because that's not a good place to be in.
No, no, I can't imagine. I can't because yeah, yeah, that's got to be really tough and a very lonely feeling as well.
Yes.
Um,
Incredible.
yeah, which I imagine once people are able to connect with you or others in the space, that's got to be almost the such a wonderful piece of it is to not feel alone, and make these connections.
It is. I mean, that's one of the biggest things that I've seen help people over the years, is just being able to talk to someone about what they're experiencing without being judged or having a lot of assumptions made, just being heard, just being accepted. And, sometimes that portion of whatever session or whatever we're dealing with, that portion of time that we spend just connecting and talking is more important than all the advice that I can give,
Yeah.
because that it's just important. It's just one of the key things that we need as people, I feel like.
Yeah, to feel heard, to feel part of something and not so alone. You're right. It's 100%. And that I think everybody can relate to when you're going through anything and you feel like you're the only one. Like that's incredibly lonely. And when you can open up and let people in, which is tough to do,
Mhm.
but to have somebody like you who experiences it and no, it's real, that's
Mhm.
definitely something. And you can talk about what it was like at the beginning before you knew what it was and kind of help them through that piece. That's really big.
Yeah.
What have you found that helps you out if you don't mind me asking more of a personal question with this?
With like the symptoms.
Yeah. Or is it different for this whatever symptom it happens to be?
Well, I found some things that help overall, that kind of help reduce the severity of my symptoms. I'm always going to deal with them. They're going to be kind of a part of who I am at this point. Um, but I have found strategies that help me navigate them. So, for example, I take a regimen of supplements that I have tested and proven to myself over and over that if I don't take these, I feel worse.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to take these. Like, for example, I take a really good collagen complex that helps with the soreness in my joints. I take turmeric, helps with inflammation, things like that, that just kind of help across the board.
Yeah.
And then also, if I'm experiencing like a really severe flare up where I'm not able to get around or move around, the way I would like to, then I have other more, what would you call them? Like more intensive measures, I guess, where I have like CBD cream that I use on particularly painful areas. I also got a really amazing shower chair that works
Oh,
great.
that's nice.
So little things like that. It's the smallest things that can make the biggest difference when you're dealing with an illness like that, because it's the smallest day to day things that you take for granted that then become the most difficult. Um,
I
so
I can see I've had multiple knee surgeries and that shower chair makes life vastly easier when you can't move the
yes,
way you would expect to. Um,
yeah.
well, that's good. And is I imagine you had mentioned something where if you like the collagen, for instance, taking that you feel a certain way or the turmeric. Is this something you encourage people to do to track maybe what they're eating for a certain amount of time and then add something in only one thing so then you can see the body's response to it?
Yes. So we do kind of start with eliminating the bad. We try
Yeah.
to eliminate as much of the noise and the outside influences as much as possible before even starting any kind of intervention. Because you have to get back to your baseline and kind of see where you're really at. And so I always recommend cutting out junk food. That was another thing that really
Mm,
helped me, honestly, was just cutting out seed oils and fried foods and junk food. I noticed a huge
I would
difference in
imagine,
how I
yeah.
felt.
Yes, a lot of
Huge.
inflammation comes from those types of food, so I imagine
So
so.
much. Oh, yes. So, yes. And then I always do, when I do a full custom guide for someone, I always include check ins throughout the process so that we can kind of assess how things are going, see how they're feeling, and, make any adjustments as needed. It's not in any way, shape, or form a cookie cutter program where I just say, here you go, take this and
Yeah.
have fun.
Yeah, I imagine there's similar things, like you said, cut out all the crap. Maybe you didn't
Yeah.
use the word crap, but yes, cut out all that, cut out all that stuff first, so you have a baseline. And then, honestly, though, the amount of things people deal with that would not completely go away, but get a lot better if they just cut out 90% of what's in the
Yeah.
processed foods, and then kind of add things back in. It would it would help everybody quite a bit.
It's amazing.
It
It is.
really, I did a 96-hour fast back in November, and then I felt awesome, if I'm gonna be honest. Like, obviously, inflammation was gone,
Yeah.
and I felt great, and then I slowly introduced stuff back in to see how I'd feel, and I remember eating Swedish fish for the first time, which I love. My body didn't love it. After
Oh,
I
no.
ate it again, I was like, "Alright." And I still have them from time to time. I just know
Yeah.
what's gonna happen later on after I
The
have them.
consequences.
Yes.
Yep.
And sometimes in the moment, it's worth it, and then later on, you're like, "That was stupid. I shouldn't have done that at all."
We're
But
human.
yes, we are. You need to live a little, I guess,
Yes.
sometimes.
Yes.
Um, so with people who are dealing with this sort of stuff, do you recommend also a level of movement or exercise, or even being outside in nature as part of the process?
Absolutely. Those are two things that I'm very vocal about with people. Even though exercise itself is difficult for people who are dealing with a lot of these chronic pain conditions, there are other things you can do that give your body the same kind of benefits as a full intense workout, basically.
Yeah,
Um, so I always recommend that they find some kind of way that they can move. One of the best ways I've found to do it is if you have access to a pool.
I was
I
just gonna say
love that.
swimming must be a
It's amazing.
wonderful one.
Yes, it is. It's so great. I mean, it helps maintain the muscle strength so that you can stand, move, function the way you need to. Because
Yeah,
if you're just sitting down all the time, your muscles eventually atrophy. I mean, you're not going to be
absolutely.
able to support yourself. You're not going to be able to stand up without falling over, you know? So there has to be some kind of maintenance factored in so that you're not getting worse while you're trying to get better, if that
No,
makes sense.
absolutely. And that goes for anybody, like the amount of times we're sitting, the amount of
Yes.
time we're sitting throughout the day, and then people are upset because they can't squat down to tie their shoes. Um,
Mhm.
and it's just because, like, we're stuck in that seated position for so long. So I think
Yes.
that, and even getting outside into nature and getting fresh air and sunlight on you, and all the benefits there are incredible. So
Amazing.
yeah,
Yes.
you can go swimming in a lake. The ocean
Even
might be
better.
a little rough with the current and everything, but,
Ah.
it's, yeah, it'll bring you back in eventually.
Exactly, it's fine, it's fine.
It's fine. Alright, Kat said it's fine. Just go jump in the ocean. You'll be good.
No, wait, hold on, I'm
I
almost in,
know.
hold on.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Um,
No, but
so
yeah.
how long, and I know there's, again, it's specific to everybody, but generally speaking, how long is it before people notice an improvement? And I know there are flare-ups and the pain comes back, but in general, how long does it usually take, have you noticed?
Usually, if people are able to go ahead and start taking their supplements, go ahead and start removing all the stressors and toxins and things, as soon as they do that, that's when they start to see improvement. So usually it doesn't take long. I mean, within a week, they can start to say,
Wow.
I feel better. I feel more energized. I feel more motivated because it's it's not it's not just leaving them in the dark about what's happening, if that makes sense. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not just telling them go do this thing and good luck basically.
Yeah, that wouldn't be
you
helpful.
know that wouldn't be too helpful. So yeah, I mean, it's usually pretty quick that they start to notice a difference, but it continues.
Mhm.
They notice more and more results as they continue on with it. The longer they're able to maintain their boundaries, maintain their priorities, keep taking care of themselves the way they need to feel better, they just keep feeling better.
That's awesome. That's got to be incredibly rewarding for you, especially having experienced everything these people are experiencing at some
Yeah.
level or in some way.
Yes. I've had the privilege to witness people who were like doubled over in pain, miserable, depressed, and talk to them and help them out until they were walking and feel smiling and feeling so much better. You couldn't even recognize them. I mean, it was like a completely different person. And there's nothing better than that in the world. I mean, nothing.
No, there really isn't. I think if people focus more on helping others or being in the service of others somehow, and we all had took that approach, it would be a happier place, I think. But it makes you feel good when you're able to help somebody
Yeah,
else out and they appreciate it. And they're,
of
a lot of
course.
times they pass it on to other people too.
Yes.
Do you have any specifics? You don't have to use names, but anybody in particular that stands out for you? I love stories
Oh
if
gosh.
if it can stand out there.
Well, there just been so many. I mean, when I worked at the dispensary, it was amazing. I had the privilege to learn from some of the smartest people in the cannabis industry, and we were able to use that to guide people towards in that industry it was specific towards cannabis, but when I was talking to people, I would always include other things too. I would always say like, "Hey, throw some turmeric in there. You'll start to see a little bit more of a difference." And if they did, they noticed a difference.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, again, it's a lot of different factors that you can combine to get more of a result. But I do remember there was one older lady that she was a beautiful older lady. She had the most gorgeous gray hair, just the thick mane. I was so jealous. I was like, girl, when I get older, I want to look just like you. Um, but she didn't feel beautiful.
Oh,
She felt low. She was hurting. She had experienced a lot of tragedy in a very short period of time in her life. And she was already older and already dealing with her own health struggles when that happened. So you could tell it really took a toll on her.
yeah.
And I had the privilege to meet her and get to talk with her. And, like I said, I really wanted to just connect with her because I felt like she needed it. And I kind of saw a little of myself in her as well. So I just kind of wanted to do that. And we ended up talking more than we did about life than we did about the cannabis, actually. But over time, she just completely blossomed and transformed. I mean, she would come in with her head held high. She would have herself dressed, looking nice. There was another old gentleman that kind of hit on her and made a pass on her one time. I was like, see, I told you.
That's funny. That's funny.
So I always remember her. She's got a spot in my heart.
Oh, that's sweet. I'm sure she fondly remembers you too.
I hope so.
No, you don't forget people who help you out along the way. That's really sweet. That's really sweet.
Yes.
Is there anything I'm forgetting to ask you about, or anything that people might not even be aware of in terms of dealing with these chronic? Is it a disease or chronic pain? Like I want to make sure I'm calling it the right thing.
Well, mine is fibromyalgia, so that's kind of what I focus on, that disease.
Yep.
However, since those symptoms are so varied and so widespread, I kind of have a little bit more of a database to draw from
Yeah. Yeah.
where I can relate to a lot of different people with a lot of different conditions. So I kind of try to use that and build on that to help people with various different conditions like arthritis, POTS, different things like that.
Oh, that's awesome. Are most of the people you speak with older, or are you getting people from all ages?
Honestly, there have been more younger, like middle-aged people, I feel like over the years, that have started to kind of come forward and look for this kind of help as opposed to just, taking doctors at their word. They kind of want to just go into things a little more, learn a little bit more. And I think that's great because
Yeah.
instead of you don't sometimes you have people who come in that they're desperate. They're like, I'm really in pain. I don't know what else to try. I've tried everything. Can you help me out? And those are always the people that I'm just like, it hurts my heart and I want to, immediately
Yeah.
help them. But then you also have people who are taking it a little bit slower. They're like, okay, I'm starting to notice these things. Maybe I haven't developed this condition yet, but I'm starting to feel like, I'm not doing my best. I'm not healing the way I used to. I'm slowing down. And they want to get some more information on what they can do to combat that, which is awesome too.
Yeah, I
So,
can see. Do you
yeah.
find people get stuck on the question, why is this happening to me? Um,
Oh,
I imagine that. I mean, it's a fair question. It absolutely
it is.
sucks. I imagine what
Oh,
you're going through.
yeah.
How do you deal with
Yeah.
that question? And I know I
Well,
just put you on the spot there, Kat. I'm sorry
well,
about
no,
that.
that's one of those things I feel like is a little different for everybody and how they internalize it and how they deal with it. Because I personally have found that like everything has a purpose that I can find somewhere in it, even if it's kind of cliche to say everything happens for a reason, right?
Yeah.
But there can be a reason in everything that happens.
Yes.
So, like, you've had this horrible thing happen to you, and it's important to acknowledge that it is horrible and that it affected you and that it was not fair. But from there, where do you go? That's the choice.
Yeah. Y-
So that's kind of where it comes in, where you're trying to kind of help them to not fixate so much on the why or the me
Yeah. Yeah.
and kind of just go at it from this is something that happened that we can't control, but we can navigate around it and through it and make the best of it, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
No, it does. It does because a lot of people in all walks of life get stuck on the why is this happening, and a lot of times there's no reason. It just
Yeah,
is
that's
happening, and
yeah,
the sooner you can understand that piece of it, it's not like you didn't do anything wrong or it's not your fault or
exactly.
that like that's part of life. Crap happens.
Mhm.
I'll say that as a
Yes.
teacher. I don't want to get in trouble, but things things happen, and it's I hope it doesn't sound too insensitive, but and that's just the way it is. You've got to learn to deal with it and you make the most of what you can because there's still plenty of good out there and plenty of positives that you can take. Um,
Absolutely.
and I found that people who are able to get through and deal with the toughest stuff are also the ones who seem to be able to find the most joy in life too. I don't know
Mhm.
if that makes sense or if that's
No,
something you've seen.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's true.
Oh, well, Kat, I appreciate you taking the time. How can people get in touch with you?
Well, I am on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. I have a Facebook page. You'll see I have a link. You'll probably see it everywhere because I share it everywhere. It says it says beacons.ai and it says wild wellness. That's my brand. That's me. And if they click on that, they'll be able to there's a free newsletter that I put out that they can sign up for there that kind of does just a little weekly kind of empowerment session where it's like, here's some things you can do to feel better this week. Here's some things that, you know, happen in life, just a little wrap session every week that we can
Yeah.
kind of do. And there's also all the options are there for consultations, for the wellness guide, or everything I have is available right there in that one little spot.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. And I'll put all that stuff in the show notes, all the links, so it'll be nice and easy for everyone to find you. Do you have like three maybe quick pieces of advice for people in general that'll maybe help them out a little bit? You don't have to go in depth,
Mm.
just any quick little things.
The best advice that I think I could give would be to understand that it isn't your fault, that it's okay, that, you're going to be okay, first of all. Secondly, is to set boundaries and protect and respect your own boundaries and make sure other people do the same. Because with any form of healing, whether it's the way you eat, the way you act, whatever, it's gonna come up with other people and they're gonna question it. And, they might not be supportive, but that's okay. You can still honor yourself and respect your boundaries. Um, and as far as like health, I would definitely say that you are what you eat is a big
Yeah.
factor.
It's
You
very
are
true.
what you eat
It's very
because
true.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to hop on here with us. I really appreciate it. And anybody dealing with any chronic pain or knows anybody, Cat is a huge resource that can really have a huge benefit in your life. So please reach out to her, pass her along as it whenever and however you can.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.